I know some absolutely outstanding photographers in the world of motor racing who produce mesmerising pieces of art with the stuff that I could never, ever match. But they don't get paid for it, and all they do is complain all the time about it. I mean, moan, fucking moan. Why? Because what they shoot is never going to get into a press release. It's never going into an online or printed race report. It's never going to be used by a driver promoting a sponsor on social media. And the feature pieces in magazines and whatnot, well, they're actually suited for them. But they come from a closed shop. Look, I'm not the world's greatest racing photographer, but it's not my top priority. It's third place for me, after being an editor and journalist, which means I have a slightly different slant on things to many other photographers, because, well, it's been for a long time part of my job to select photographs that fit with stories and inform the audience, which is why I want to share some important advice for those of you who want to work, whether part-time or full-time, in racing photography. I'll give you 2 points off the bat, and then you can choose if you want to listen to the reasons as to why it's important after that, because, you know, these videos aren't 30 seconds long and people are thick as fuck and can't be asked to sit through them. But if it's not relevant to you, that's fair enough. Reason 1, straight off, drivers and teams want every single sponsor on their car or race suit to be visible in the photo. 2, race reports and news articles want for the most part clear pictures. And this is something I've spoken about in depth with editors and former editors and some of the biggest outlets in motorsport, in print and online. I mean, that's the majority, not all, but the majority of paid work. And I know some of you, with the flashy photos, do make a living getting gigs, but the majority of working snappers put forward photos that are not art. If you've been working in motorsport photography for any length of time, this vid probably isn't for you. But if you're trying to hop across the fence, or if you're trying to smash down the wall to go to another level, then this might be worth some time. It's like this, right? As a journalist, and a highly experienced and well-qualified one at that, it fucks me off. And don't worry, my writing's far more eloquent than my talking. But it fucks me off when I read articles with the words amongst and whilst in there. It's among and while. I'm going somewhere photography with this here, but just for a moment, sidestepping. In 1946, George Orwell published an essay, and it should be burned into the skull of any news journalist or any sports journalist writing a report, this essay, and it was called Politics in the English Language. In there, Orwell laid out six rules for writing, and here are 2. Never use a long word where a short one will do. If it's possible to cut a word out, always cut it out. People who are not journalists or are not practicing journalism properly think journalism is about using words like amongst and whilst. Just like some people want to break into motorsport photography, think it's only, and I reiterate that, only, about the fancy pan and shot. Bullshit in both cases. Yeah, the pan and shot gets used, but not that much. And as for amongst and whilst, while you can get away with it sometimes in a feature article, but not news and reporting, yeah. And believe me, as a racing magazine editor of 9 years, I've been approached by photographers looking for work, given portfolios full of fancy pans and fuck all else. And I've had portfolios from trained journalists who just ignore the fucking basics. That shit, in both cases, goes straight in the fucking bin. I don't even bother with a reply anymore. It's a weekly pain in the arse. And don't for the moment bother asking for work and for press passes from us. For 2024, we're sorted. I'm sorry to say, I've got a great crew working with us. Leo and British Touring Cars and Eat My Pixels Steve in TCR, and myself. It's more than enough. I've been working trackside as a photographer for 7 or so years now. Being a racing magazine editor for longer than that, and a racing journalist for even longer than that. So I think I've got a pretty good grasp of how this racing media ecosystem works. Without being a massive dickhead, I think I can say I've worked with some fuck off amazing photographers, media and PR people over the last decade. I don't know everything, but I haven't had an interest and feet on both sides of the fence, so to speak. I've got more than a grasp of it all. I do know me shit here. When it comes to photography, I love the challenge that everybody loves, the holy grail of that amazing, smooth, slow shutter speed pan and shot with a car or part of the car honed into focus. It's the kick-ass snap. You see it headlining people's Instagram or portfolios. That's it for many photographers. But you won't in reality really see it much elsewhere. I'm not saying a nice pan and shot isn't going to get used, but at a fifth of a second, rarely will it get used. And yeah, it's a shame because that's good shit, you know. I mean, it is good shit, let's be honest. And it's an art. And people love to see it, but the truth is it's all about briefs and what your client wants. And even if your client doesn't know what they want and you go to them with a pan and shots, it won't last. It'll be great at first, but it won't take long for them to figure out what they do want. And I'm mainly talking about on-track stuff here, not pit lane, paddock, behind the scenes, you know. If you're working with a driver, say for 10 or 7 weekend racing season, they want clear pics every week. Of course, they want a few outstanding, fancy shots too, but it's a business and they want a photo that will do a job in terms of getting partners on show. Maybe not so much at club racing, but certainly on the national level and on the national and international level. If you're doing a layout of a magazine and covering an F1 race, editors who work in that area want that high shutter speed, head-on shot of the cars, same with touring cars and whatnot, where they're all about piling to turn one, where you can see where every driver is, and you can shoot across the page to the starting grid and you can see who's made what moves. I sound like a right miserable fucker, don't I? And you know what? You shouldn't stop taking those fantastic photos, but in business terms, the reality is that the basics are what is needed 99% of the time. But it doesn't mean that you have to lack style and finesse. Fuck no. But you shouldn't ignore those bread and butter shots. And it does piss me off. Not all, but most PR people don't know the difference between a good and a great shot. And most online editors who don't work in photography haven't a clue about photography either. As for the printed press, sometimes you just can't believe that there's actually an art director employed who's choosing these photos. Sometimes you look and you think, from a photography standpoint, have they been huffing on the herbal, or have they indulged too much in a bag of sniff? Because when I read news or reports online or study every page of a racing magazine, which is actually part of my job to do every week, I do despair at the fact that adequate photos are used instead of exciting ones. I mean, in Motor Racing UK magazine, when we ran that before Touring Car magazine, we used to get a lot of stuff from British drivers who raced at the Nürburgring. And a press release would come with maybe 4 copyright-free photos. Headshot, probably side-on, stylish. 2 outstanding, dramatic, fantastic shots, you know, maybe a brilliant pan and shot, something at the carousel or something where the car's tiny, but there's loads of forest behind. And then you'll get the practical photo where the car in full clarity takes up the whole frame. It's not getting air like in those dramatic shots, you know. But when I see the story written up for a news piece somewhere else, the 2 brilliant dramatic shots never ever used. So that's the lesson. Make sure you don't ignore the basics. Make sure you're taking the shots that clients will use. Don't stop taking the outstanding shots. They are wanted, but you need to feed the fucking hungry beast what it wants to, otherwise it's going to get really snappy. That's it really. I've got another video coming that'll contradict this. Just make sure that you're shooting usable photos if you want to get into working in motorsport photography. No matter how much fun it is, remember, you're only going to get the gig if you can provide a service. If you only want to shoot fantastically pleasing photos, I'm afraid you'll just end up staying on the other side of the fence among the paying public while you pan and pan and pan. Right then, like, comment, subscribe, and like, here's another video with all that's wrong with motorsport photography. And I'm going to shoot it now, so I'll be wearing the same shit.